U.S. troops working alongside with Afghans, and importantly, and this is something they've asked for here at the Pentagon, to be able to call in airstrikes, have much more close air support. Obviously, airstrikes have ticked up in Afghanistan. They're dramatically higher in 2017 versus 2016. But when you have them forward deployed, the theory is that that's going to embolden the Afghan forces because they know that not only do they have U.S. air support behind them, but they also have medevac should they have casualties. So that's the theory here, that why those 4,000 will be force multipliers and embolden and bolster Afghan National Army. Chris?
Hans, thank you. My panel is ready to get in here. MSNBC military analyst General Barry McCaffrey. Will Fisher is with VoteVets.org, also an Iraq War veteran and Purple Heart recipient. Nayyera is former senior advisor to former Ambassador Richard Holbrooke, a special advisor on Pakistan and Afghanistan under President Obama. Good to see all of you. And I want to start with President Trump last night, playing a little bit more of him. But first, let's go back, because consistently during the campaign, he said he would not reveal military strategy. Listen.
I'm tired of watching these people get up, these politicians, and tell the enemy exactly what we're going to do, when we're going to be there, when we're going to leave.
Why can't they do it quietly? Why can't they do the attack, make it a sneak attack, and after the attack is made, inform the American public that we've knocked out the leaders, we've had a tremendous success. If I win, I don't want to broadcast to the enemy exactly what my plan is.
So, General, with that in mind, I guess maybe it's not a surprise he decided to say what he said last night. Is not revealing a plan, in your mind, a strategy?
Look, you know, we're in a bad situation in Afghanistan. The last couple of years has been a steady erosion of the position. The central government's corrupt, incompetent. The governors are out of control. The Taliban now control half the country. I think last night was realism in action. Mr. Trump may have read the speech, but he had to approve Secretary Mattis, Tillerson, HR, and others putting together a plan to avoid a disaster. So I think that's what we heard. 4,000 troops, that's all in the margin.
Well, was this a plan to avoid disaster, or was this a plan to win?
Plan to avoid disaster. I think General Nixon on the ground, and there's a tremendous amount of experience, by the way, in D.C., as you know, Chris, on understanding this problem. They did get left with a mess. By the way, I'd be happier if there were 35,000 airmen intelligence special ops there, not 8,000. So I think basically we don't want an implosion with millions of refugees fleeing into Afghanistan and Iran. We don't want to return to the safe havens. There was not a lot new last night, but there was a tone of pragmatism to what he had to say. A little new in Pakistan, putting the arm on him, a little bit tricky bringing India into the equation. I don't think, by the way, Pakistan has ever been the central problem in Afghanistan, notwithstanding safe haven. So we'll see. I think it was a solid notion of how to move forward.
Now, since he brought up Pakistan, I will bring that up because the president did call out Pakistan last night, saying we can no longer be about, be quiet, as Pakistan is a safe haven for terrorist organizations, the Taliban and beyond. What did you make, though, of him bringing that up and in another breath talking about India, talking about it being a critical part of South Asia strategy?
Well, clearly, everybody needs to be a partner in the region in stabilizing Afghanistan. It's of interest to Pakistan. It's of interest in India. It's also of interest to Russia. And so there are certain countries, while he's putting pressure on Pakistan with the porous border, with the fact that Osama bin Laden was found in Pakistan and killed there, clearly there needs to be greater cooperation with the Pakistani government to defend and stabilize Afghanistan, but we didn't hear about Iran, and we didn't hear about Russia, and we didn't hear about the broader NATO strategy that was underpinning all of the Obama administration efforts to make sure other countries were sharing the burden. Frankly, right now, the United States and the American public, it's our blood and treasure that's being spent in Afghanistan. And with Donald Trump's reputation overseas, his inability to work with other allies and foreign leaders, we, the American public, are now left holding the bag.
And Will, in 2013, then Citizen Trump tweeted this: "Do not allow our very stupid leaders to sign a deal that keeps us in Afghanistan through 2024 with all costs by USA. Make America great." But then here's what he said last night about that.
my original instinct was to pull out. And historically, I like following my instincts. But all my life, I've heard that decisions are much different when you sit behind the desk in the Oval Office. In other words, when you're President of the United States.
And then, Will, he talked about an honorable and enduring outcome, and and made reference to the sacrifices, obviously, that have been made by the men and women who have fought this war over the last 16 years or so. What did you make of the speech last night from your vantage point?
Look, I thought last night the speech was the epitome of Donald Trump. It was self-serving, it was low on substance, and it was high on bombast. Let's be crystal clear. What we saw last night was Donald, the self-described ratings machine Trump, continue to watch his poll numbers in a complete free fall, especially in the wake of equivocating on Nazis and white supremacists. So what's he do? He calls together his sort of cabal of sycophants, throws together a meeting at Camp David, and like a reality TV show star, tries to flip the script, tries to throw in a major plot twist, and tries to get people distracted off the fact that, again, he has equivocated on white supremacists, he has equivocated on Nazis, and now he's trying to change the narrative.
Is
and that is what this speech was all about.
Fighting there heard?
I do. I think that's what everybody across America heard, because, look, you see Donald Trump flip-flopping over and over and over, going this direction, going that direction. This is a person who only a few months ago was dropping MOABs on Afghanistan, then only a few weeks ago is saying, meh, I'm not even sure we even belong there. And now he's essentially writing a blank check in his quest to not lose in Afghanistan. Donald Trump could have saved us all a lot of time last night if he would have just taken to Twitter and posted a photo of him kicking a can down the street and said, here's my policy on Afghanistan.
Nayyera, Steve Bannon is back at Breitbart now, and he was very quick in his reaction. The headline there calls out Trump for reversing course, calling him a flip-flopper. But what's the message you think our allies got, as well as our enemies?
That the United States is left holding the bag. I mean, again, there was absolutely no mention of what this broader diplomatic or political effort would look like. And this is the challenge of assuming that timelines or signaling is a bad thing. That's what Trump has gone in throughout, saying that we can't let the enemies know what we're doing. Well, at the same time, then, we're not letting our allies know what we're doing either. And we're not letting the Afghan government or Afghan security forces know what our plan is either. And if they, in 16 years, have not gotten ready to stand up and take over the country, we need a plan and we need details that will allow them to do that, or we need other countries to step in. And those are not the details that we heard yesterday.
Let me go back, General, then to the military strategy here, because Mike Pence was on the Today Show this morning. I want to just play a little bit of what he had to say.
What the president has decided is to deploy a sufficient number of troops at the brigade level in Afghanistan to assist the Afghans who are in the lead, who are at the tip of the spear in this fight, to assist them in their fight against the Taliban, in their fight against the Haqqani network, Al-Qaeda, ISIS that are there, and also the president's going to make available additional air combat resources.
So from a military strategic standpoint, what does this mean in very real terms? And looking at what this strategy is, what's the best case scenario?
By the way, Chris, I think it's incumbent upon us in the policy debate in the coming couple of years to separate your view of President Trump from the policies that may or may not be emerging. So setting aside one's viewpoint on racism and white supremacists, et cetera, I thought last night was as good as we can do. That wasn't much of a strategy put forward. It was just a notion that we're not going to withdraw. We're going to have conditions-based analysis of how long we stay. We're going to get more muscular rules of engagement. And we're going to have a modest increase in forces and maybe a broader political engagement with Pakistan, India, and others. So, I think we ought to applaud that he's avoided a disastrous move. And this sounds like common sense coming out of Secretary Madison, Tillerson, HR, and others. I I think it was a pretty good show last night.
But pretty conventional as well?
Oh, yeah. Look, you know, by the way, putting advisors at battalion level is a very risky business. And I used to tell people I was wounded twice as a battalion level advisor in Vietnam. So we're going to have a very thin screen of U.S. troops out there on the ground. Bringing in air power, medevac, okay, but this is risky business for those soldiers and Marines in Afghanistan in the coming years.
General, it's always great to have your expertise. Nayyera, Will, thanks to you as well. And up next.